What's up, everybody? Welcome to Discourse and Chill. I'm Ian.
And I'm your girl Reese, and today we are discussing financial literacy. We want to talk about the do's and the don'ts, talk about what has worked for us, what has not worked for us, and some of the lessons that we had to learn the hard way. We hear so much about communities leaving generational wealth while other communities leave generational debt, and we want to talk about trying to break the cycle of generational debt. I want to preface this by saying we are not financial advisors in any way, shape, or form. Your money is your money. The decisions you make with your money are yours. We're not trying to persuade you into any way or to lead you to do X or Y or Z with your money. We are just here to discuss our experiences and kind of get through that process. Just having the conversation that matters. So I'll jumpstart with saying what financial literacy is defined as. It's pretty much the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills to include personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. Ian, was there any lessons that you learned growing up, anything that was taught to you by your parents when it came down to financial literacy as a child?
Not, no, not really. Honestly, I think a lot of the things I learned happened later on in life. I think
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I got my first bank account. I got a savings and a checking account when I was 12, and I didn't really get taught like its function, its purpose, like the flow of money in and out of the account. It was just something that was established. I don't remember like regularly having money in it or having access to the money that was in it. Uh, I think a lot of the only lesson that I was really taught was to save. I think that was something that was always reiterated in my household. It was something that was always told to me. I remember getting lunch money for the week, and then my dad would tell me to save my money, and I was completely confused because I had $10, lunch was $2, and I didn't know like there's 5 days of the week. That's all my money.
Right, because the math teacher said 2 times 5 is 10.
Exactly. I have just enough to make it till Friday, so I
Right.
don't know what I'm saving. But I always felt that that was a constant reminder to save, and I think I never really understood how I was going to do that based on my personal financial situation growing up.
Yeah.
Because even I played sports my pretty much my entire childhood and through high school, and so there was no job. There were a couple of side hustles, but there was no like consistent flow of money that was coming in, or I didn't have an allowance. I didn't get paid for grades or anything like that. So if I needed something, I had to ask my parents, and then I was given like say I was given $20, I had to bring back change.
Mhm.
There was no like saving in that moment. Like I remember wanting to go to the skating rink and like having enough money to get in the skate rink and buy like a singular drink or snack, and even in that I had to choose like, am I thirsty or am I hungry?
Right. Right.
There was never the excess. And even in those instances, I remember my parents would tell me to save, and I'm like, I'm confused because are you telling me not to go to the skate rink now? Because I literally just have enough to get in and to get something to drink. Like I don't know. Should I not go? And if I don't go, do I get to keep this money? Like,
Right.
is that what you're telling me? Because I didn't have the money, and the reason I'm getting the money is because I'm going here. So if I don't go, do I get to keep this?
Right. Right.
So I think for me, it was a foreign language growing up. It's not something that was discussed in depth. There were no tools or strategies, or the ins and outs weren't discussed. I remember going off to college really not knowing much about how finances work. Like I understood the concept of paying bills, but I never had to pay bills. I never had any money to pay bills, and so that was all new to me there. So yeah, I don't. It wasn't really discussed in the household. It was always grown folks' business.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
How
kind of
about you?
funny. it's kind of funny that at an early age you had to learn the struggle of making a choice between saving money or feeding myself. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, and it's
Yeah.
crazy. I don't think that we realize, as adults, the the situation we're putting our kids into. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because like inadvertently, they're teaching you or telling you that you have to make a decision. Like, are you going to
Yeah.
save money for your future, or are you going to eat today? And I'm pretty sure they had no idea that that's what they were doing.
Yeah. No, not at
And
all.
just, yeah, and just listening to it, just listen to them like, dang, at 9, you have to decide like, am I going to use this $2 a day, or am I going to save it? Am I going to eat today, or am I, that's wow.
Yeah. I
But
don't
yeah,
think there was a. I don't think that decision making process happened. I think it was just this is ridiculous. I'm gonna buy lunch.
I'm 9. I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got cookies and chicken sandwiches in the cafeteria today. I want one of each.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
like I knew, and it's funny too because I knew when I made my lunch, I didn't get the $10. Like if I
Oh,
think that would have been a good lesson because I tried to
right.
like even be sneaky about it. Like I'll make my lunch the morning of,
Yeah.
and like, can I get my $10 for the week? And it's like, no, you made your lunch, so you don't
Yeah.
need the $10 this week. So it's just
Yeah.
like I'm not really
Right.
learning the lesson of saving if when I do the thing to save the money, I'm not
I
getting
don't
the
get
money.
the money.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's, I mean, and that's something that could be incorporated now, as people
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
teaching their kids.
Hmm.
My situation was pretty much the same. We didn't have
Hmm.
the conversations about finances in the house. I do remember seeing my mom balancing the checkbook. She would sit down. She's really good about writing everything out and like living on a budget.
Hmm.
We didn't always have when I was growing up. There was plenty of times that I know my mom wanted to say yes when financially she had to say no.
Hmm.
So the discussion wasn't there about it. It was just, no, 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 right now, or no, I can't get that now, or maybe later. But it was
Hmm.
never discussed that financially this is the situation, and this is what's going on. I do remember her talking about credit cards and paying off credit cards, but I didn't really know what credit cards were, what that
Hmm.
meant, how credit cards could really affect you. I
Hmm.
do remember her saying, "Don't get credit cards, just don't get credit cards." But I never was told why not to get credit cards or
Yeah,
how to be
exactly.
responsible with the credit card if I decided to get a credit card. It was just don't get
Mhm.
it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, my financial conversations were pretty much non-existent growing up as a
Hmm.
kid.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of shaped when I went off to college, like, some decisions that I made that I had to pretty much learn the hard way because I didn't have anybody telling me prior to what to do or what not to do.
Hmm.
And I think that's a conversation that is missing um, in our community. Um, and I'm hoping that now, as we're getting older, we're having those conversations. Like right now, we're having the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's interesting that you said as well that you were aware of like like I didn't know my parents were like I didn't know that we didn't have money. I didn't know it was a commodity in the way that like I just thought they had it. They had jobs, like they
Mhm.
had the things. Um, I don't know. We always looked the part, and
Yeah,
not saying that I had fancy things, but
go without.
I didn't go without, and I didn't really like. I wasn't somebody that needed a lot, So
Right.
I think that definitely helped my parents. Is like I didn't care how many pairs of jeans I had or how many clothes I had. Like
Mhm.
I didn't really care about those things when I was younger, and I didn't want a lot of things. Like I didn't want a lot of toys or video games or anything. So I think for me personally, I didn't ask for a lot, so there weren't a lot
Mhm.
of no's. Like I just wanted to be able to go outside and play and mess up a pair of shoes, probably, But I didn't really realize until I was much older that when
Mhm.
I was younger, my parents were really like money was super tight. I
Yeah.
remember having conversations with both of my parents and them telling me that during certain periods of my upbringing that like they didn't have the money to do a lot of things, and I was like, really, huh?
Mhm.
That's really interesting. And even in that, I think is I commend them for I don't know bringing me up in a way that I didn't, I guess, demand a lot of things or want a lot of things, but
Mhm.
also bringing me up in a way that kind of hid the hid the fact that we were without in a lot of instances. Um, and I think that it was very telling now because it was like a secret, and I'm like, I wish I would have known, because then I could have prepared better for me going forward. You know, like there were lessons that you were learning about not having that would have been
Mhm.
paramount sending me off to college with these lessons. You know,
Yeah.
leaving the house knowing, like not knowing anything really about how to get $100,
Mhm.
divide it, like budget it for
Yeah.
whatever is needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Like those
Like
are
money was
conversations.
such a thing. Money was a thing that, you know, the saying, it burns a hole in your pocket. You know,
Yes.
and I think
Mhm.
it burned a hole in my pocket because I'd never had it. So when I had it, it was like, oh, I get to spend this. You know, I
Yeah.
finally, like, why do I have to save? I haven't had it in a long time. So,
Right. Yeah, and though it's those type of conversations. Like I knew growing up that we my mom was a single mom for a portion of
mhm,
time, single mom of three kids. She divorced my dad, and he let it be known that we could live in a box for all he cared.
mhm,
Which is really crazy that you fathered these children, but then the relationship breaks up. So then not only did you divorce my mom, you divorced us as well.
mhm,
So with that being, what we were going through, I kind of knew that financially we didn't have, everything that my mom wanted us to have, because she was,
yeah,
single mom working two full-time jobs and going to school working on her master's degree.
mhm,
So she was literally um doing everything that she could to get herself into a better position for us. So the
mhm,
nose would come, like if I would like some candy in the store.
yeah.
Oh, they got these new gummy bears or these new gushers or something. All the credit you see on the commercial. Oh, mom,
Mhm.
this cereal here. Like I grew up on Kicks. Like you get these Kicks, you put some sugar in it, that's what you got. So I didn't get all of the extra, Fruit Loops or the Fruity Pebbles. I didn't have Fruity Pebbles until I went to college. Like I
Yeah,
never had a
I
Fruity
never had
Pebble
it in that
until
either.
I went to college. But it was because she gave us everything that we needed, and she
Hmm.
had to say no to the things that we wanted at
Yeah.
time. So
Hmm.
we were always provided for. I never went without. Like, I mean, I've
Hmm.
always been plus size. I was a chunky little kid. So it wasn't like we missed any meals or anything, but it was those wants that she couldn't always provide.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think
Um.
that's interesting you said too, because I think it goes to my point earlier is that, like, I always knew that what my parents bought was what we ate. You know,
Mhm,
like I don't
mhm.
ever remember asking my parents for like a particular type of cereal. You know, like I just have always known that if my mom gives great nuts and oatmeal, then that's my breakfast for the week. You
Right.
know, like there was no discussion in like in that.
Right. Yeah. So it's funny looking back on it, like, oh wow, we were kind of poor growing up.
Yeah,
Um
right.
like, dang, we didn't have nothing. But my
Yeah,
childhood, like I had fun, playing out in the
yeah, for
street when the
sure.
street lights came on, like so definitely had fun as a
Hmm.
kid, but didn't again have the conversations about finances. But I think that is part of adults trying to make sure that kids are kids and I have to worry about the financial strain of
Yeah,
it. But
absolutely.
I think still there was ways that you could have taught the lessons, like you said. Okay, you need to work on savings, so I'm gonna give you $10. But if you
Hmm.
make your lunch three days out of the week, you save six of those $10. It
Exactly.
plus $2 each day. So because the lessons didn't come, it was just you need to save, but not showing me how to save or how to make the different choices between wants and needs in order to continue to
Hmm.
save. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
I remember in college getting my first credit card, and it was out of complete necessity. You know, like I was
Mhm,
getting a certain amount of money from my parents,
mhm,
and that money did not cover like rent, books,
Hmm.
gas, or well, I didn't have a car at the time. Like it didn't cover everything, you know.
Yeah.
And so I remember getting a credit card, no job, and not understanding fully like what this means. Like when I swipe this, yes, I get my books for school, but then
Hmm.
I have to pay this amount back before these 30 days, so I don't have to pay that plus the interest rate, you know?
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
and it was crazy to me that they would even give me this credit card because I didn't have a job. Like, so how was I supposed to
Listen.
pay it back?
Listen.
Like,
Freshman
I
year,
know I put that on the application. I was like, how much money you make? Zero.
zero.
Money
Yeah.
I make? What are you talking about?
Right.
So I need
Huh?
this credit card because I'm not making
Right.
any money.
Listen, freshman year, Visa
Mhm.
Platinum got me. I was like, oh, I got approved for a platinum card. Look. Went straight to the mall. Straight to the mall.
Mhm.
I didn't get a credit card out of necessity. I got a credit card
Mhm.
out of want, because I didn't have the money to buy the latest fashions, or it's like, to
Mhm.
stay. I'm in college, like, I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, for sure.
So they gave me a credit card with like a $3,000 limit, and I'm
Oh wow.
18, and Visa Platinum, Visa Platinum ruined my life. Well, it didn't ruin my life, but it
Yeah, I know.
definitely, hit my credit in a way that I had no idea.
Mhm.
What even the importance of credit was. I
Yeah.
had no idea until it was time to need my credit for something.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, Visa Platinum. $3,000 at 18. Swiping, no
Yeah.
swiping. You couldn't tell me nothing. Reeboks was like the biggest thing back then when I was in my freshman year of college. So Reebok
Mhm.
Classics with the gold plate and there. Listen, I had every Reebok known to man. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was Reebok out, Reeboks and tennis skirts. You couldn't tell me nothing. Like, I am a '80s baby, product of the '90s. Like, listen.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I was just swiping it up.
Yeah, I can't say that I was swiping it up. I think that's one thing that I was in college was I was aware of my financial situation and my
You know,
shortcomings, you know? Like I was
yeah.
cool with going without. And I was good as hell at like taking like if I had $20 that had to last me a week, I
Hmm.
was I was the man. Like I could
Breaking it
take that.
down.
I could stretch $20. Like I'm like 20. Psst, I can stretch $20 till next Tuesday. What you trying to do? And so I ended up getting a job in college, and I worked that same job, and I worked my butt off for four
Mhm.
years, and I never had excess of anything. I remember I went on a trip my senior year, like for 5 days.
Mhm.
And my dad was like, "What are you doing? You out here gallivanting all over?" I was like, "Dad, for 3.5 years,
Not
I didn't
Gallivan.
go anywhere. I didn't have spring break not one time. I
Oh wow.
didn't. Yeah, I didn't have spring break at all. I worked every single spring break in college. Like I have
Wow.
never taken a spring break off. But I remember going to Vegas, and the flight from Atlanta to Vegas was $100, and
Mhm.
then we split a room between three of us, and it
Okay.
was like $80 a night. So
Okay.
I think I was all in for like 250 and was not upset at
Right.
all to be in Vegas, you know?
Right.
Um, and I just remember getting like or hearing uh, the the pressure and this scolding for like doing something. And at this time, by
Yeah.
my senior year, like I had learned to budget. I had paid off a lot of my credit cards. You know,
Mhm.
I had two at this time, and I remember, but like when I went on this trip, they were paid off. And it was like, I'm gonna do this for me. I've been working 50 hours a week for I don't know how
Mhm.
long. I had two
For
jobs
4
this
years.
summer, you know?
Yeah.
And but I will say that I still didn't have a concept or a strategy in place to really effectively use
Mhm.
my income. You know, like I was
Yeah.
fine. My bills were paid. Like I had
Yeah.
groceries. I didn't have a
Mhm.
lot of things. I didn't spend a lot of money, but I didn't know like if you had extra money, like what do I do? Do I put it in my savings account? Do I
Right.
do like what do I do with this? And I just remember being confused with like I got to save. Okay, I'm gonna save like 25, 30, $50 on every paycheck, and putting it
Mm-hmm.
away. But I'm like, okay, then now what? Like, do I get to use that money when I really need something?
Right.
Like if
Right.
something comes up, is this my emergency fund or is this my retirement money? Like there was
Right.
never an identifier for it at the time, and I
Yeah.
think that now as I've grown up, I've learned to like specifically identify what money is going to do. Like this
Mm-hmm.
money is going to do this, and I think that's super important to put an earmark on whatever money that is coming into your pocket. Is like, all right, this money is going here, this money is going here, this money is going here.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny that you say that, putting earmarks on stuff, because there are five key components to financial
Hmm.
literacy. I was on investopedia.com, doing some
Okay.
research for today, and they came up with these five basic components for financial literacy. And the first one is the basics of budgeting. Sitting down and really evaluating what your bills are, what you spend your money on, and to make a plan to stick with it. So if you say I got this month for rent, this much for rent, this much for tuition, this much for books,
Hmm.
this much for food, this much for miscellaneous. College kids, we have a lot of miscellaneous, and then this much for savings.
Yeah.
We didn't really get that. This is how you budget, and this is what you plan for. We didn't
Hmm.
get those conversations.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second one is understanding interest rates. Listen,
Mm.
they gave me a credit card with a 29.5% interest rate. I had no idea what that meant. I get a bill and I'm like, I ain't spent this much. But because, I said I'm good for it and they took my word,
Hmm.
my credit, they
Yeah.
listen, when I Visa Platinum, when I tell you Visa Platinum put me in a situation. It was crazy. I literally had no idea. And I think I realized that I was in trouble when my mom asked me, I told her I had a credit card and she asked me, well, let me see your credit card statement. And I was
Hmm.
like, for what? I'm grown. I don't need like because I already knew that I pretty much maxed out this card in less than a month with no way of paying it back. And I didn't want to show that, oh my God, like, okay, I think I did something wrong.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm grown. I don't need anybody looking at finances. Da, da, da. And all she said was, you just let me know what you got going on. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh hell, she know I'm in trouble. But my outburst, she was like, "You just let me know. You just let me know what was going on." But interest rates, you have to understand that interest rates can drive up your debt, and you end up paying
Hmm.
owing back way more than what you actually borrowed or spent.
Absolutely.
Um,
Especially, I think it's important that we understand that minimum payments on credit cards are your
mhm.
worst enemy. Like when you
Yes.
pay the minimum amount on your credit card, you're covering
Listen,
the essentially just the
the
interest
interest.
that you spent. So if you spent $1,000 and they're like, "Oh, you only got to pay $45 back," like
Right.
that is just the interest. Like next month, you still gonna owe $1,000. Matter of fact, you
Right.
might owe $999.92, but you
Right.
still essentially
You
gonna owe a thousand
still.
dollars.
Yep.
So if you can pay more than the minimum, pay more than the minimum. It is
Yes.
important when
Yes.
repaying credit cards. Hmm.
And they don't tell you about the compounding interest. So like you're gonna
Mm.
get interest this month, and then that amount gets added to the total that you add. They're gonna put interest on top of that. Like it just
Yep.
keeps piling on, piling on, piling on. You end up
Mm.
digging yourself into a hole that you're trying to climb out of, and minimal
Absolutely.
payments ain't gonna do it. Like so
Not at
yeah,
all.
if you have the ability to pay more, definitely try to do more than the minimum. The
Yep.
third thing about key component is to prioritize saving. We just talked about that. You have to make sure that you put money away for a rainy day or for an emergency fund, for any future plans, even for maybe retirement. At a young age, you don't think about, oh, well, I retire at this age. You don't think about saving anything when it comes down to retiring and what your future looks like, being able to live
Mm,
off of retirement funds. So
yeah.
we have to make sure that we are prioritizing savings. Were you going to
Yeah.
say something?
Absolutely. No, I was just gonna say, like the earmark comment that I made earlier. It's important to definitely earmark all of your money. Like I think it's important to
Hmm.
have a retirement account. It's important to
Hmm.
have a rainy day account. I think it's important to have a vacation account. Like have savings for the goals that you have in place.
Yes.
To have a large account with just like this is savings, it's gonna mislead your mind. Like I think
Hmm.
mindset is super or extremely important when it comes to savings. Like you have to have a savings mindset. You have to understand, okay, this money is for X, Y, and Z. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's super important because I remember when I saved when I was younger, like if I had an emergency, then I just use that money, or if I needed
Yeah.
just a little bit extra, I'd use that extra money. And
Hmm.
it's because it didn't have a purpose and I didn't establish it a purpose. So I'd always have
Hmm.
no issue in like, I can get a little bit of that. It's fine. I
Right.
need this. You know,
Right.
when I should have been like, no, this is for my future. So I'm going to either go without or I'm going to find another way to obtain the thing that I need.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and that's real. I was having the conversation with my second nephew earlier tonight. I told him that we're going to talk about financial literacy. He's like, "Well, what is that?" And I start to explain to him like the dynamic of the podcast and telling him like now that he has his first job and is about to get his first paycheck soon. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, we need to set you up so that you start saving. I know
Mm-hmm.
at 16 you're gonna want to spend your money. I did. I was blowing money fast. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was making
Mm-hmm.
really good money at a really early age, and I was blowing money fast. I was buying everything. Like, I had more shoes than I needed, more clothes than I needed. I was,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we're gonna go to this restaurant. We're gonna go this way. Listen, me and my best friend used to run up and down the East Coast, up and down the East Coast, going to different concerts. Like I've seen
Mm-hmm.
Jay Z like 8 times. Like literally running up
Oh
and down
wow.
the East Coast. Like we were concert queens. You hear me? I can't wait for concerts to come back. But yeah, like we stayed going somewhere. We were
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. So it's pretty much explaining to him, savings and, prioritizing things. Like I said, I know at 16 you're going to want to spend because you finally
Yeah.
got money. But I want to teach you now how to be responsible enough to save some of it. Don't spend all of it, save
Mm-hmm.
some of it.
Yeah.
I'm new into stocks. So, I told him like you're at the prime age to start investing in stocks. And as I learn it, I can teach you and you can
Mm-hmm.
start building your wealth now at 16.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You gotta build stability and interest in those
Yeah.
things. I think
Mhm.
interest in
Mhm.
finances is huge because
Yeah.
I had an interest in money, you know,
Mhm.
because it was something that I went without for so long that
Mhm.
when I got it, I just had an interest in having it and being able to spend. And
Yeah.
I think it's important that we teach those that we can about finances and about
Yeah.
strategies and about savings and about all the things that come, all the responsibilities that come
Mhm.
with money.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think it's super important that we understand. Even look at our like. I lost my job at the end of last year, and I
Mhm.
really had to look at how I was going about my finances. I had to reestablish a new way to deal with them because I was on
Mhm.
unemployment. I didn't have a job, and so I was like, okay, like how am I going to pay these bills that I know that I
Yeah.
have?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's all about being comfortable in a new language essentially. Like you have to be comfortable,
Mhm.
be able to adjust, because one day you may be making, you know, X, Y, and Z amount of money, and it covers
Mhm.
all your bills, and one day you may be making less. And so, how are you
Mhm.
going to pivot in that moment to say, okay, I'm making less, I have the same bills, so I need to reprioritize what I have?
Yes, yes. That's why
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to, step three or key three, prioritize your savings. The
Yes.
key point number four was the credit to debt cycle traps. There are traps. We hit on it earlier. Those interest rates. It is easier to lose your credit reputation than it is to build it back up. And
Facts.
because of because of interest rates and compounded interest and all of those hidden fees that people don't tell you
Mm-hmm.
about, it's really easy to go from 800 to 475.
Listen.
you know it's really hard to get that 475 back up to that
The
800 because
520.
of
Shit.
right. Listen, even out of the fours, right? Just to get out of that credit to debt cycle trap, you have
Mm-hmm.
to be aware of those at all. I mean, those as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
then, go ahead.
No, I just absolutely. I think it's funny. I have Credit Karma on my phone, and I was doing. They have this thing where you can click to simulate your score. So if you pay
Hmm.
off like this credit card, or if you pay off this much debt, so I am close to paying off my like all of my credit cards, and
Okay.
it was like if I pay this one off, uh, how much like will my credit score rise? So I clicked the
Hmm.
button. I was waiting. I was like, I'm about to have at least like 20 points come up. It was like
Right.
1 point. I was like, what? 1 point?
One
Like,
point.
nah, homie. Like, I've been paying this off for way too long for you to give me 1 point
Right.
for all the work I done did.
Run me my points. Right. Run me my points. Oh man. That's crazy. So yeah,
Yeah.
like listen, it is so much easier to lose your
Mm-hmm.
credit reputation than it is to build it
To
back
gain
up.
it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And then key point number five was identity theft issues and safety. We are
Mm-hmm.
in a digital age where everything is online. You can shop online, you get groceries online, you can pay bills online, and it makes you more vulnerable. So there is, a
Mm-hmm.
high risk of identity theft. It is on the rise. So there's different programs that are available that can help to protect your information. There's all these different cybersecurity firms and stuff, but honestly, the best way, I'm not gonna say the best, one way to help protect yourself is to set up different security codes. Some things
Mm-hmm.
now have where you have two or three different layers of security. Um,
Mm-hmm.
before you can access things that people can get into, so you want to make sure you set up those different layers of security to help. It is not 100% foolproof. Obviously there are hackers everywhere, but you want to just be aware of the identity theft that is on the rise, and your safety in regards to that. Make wise decisions. Opening up a lot of credit cards, have a whole string of credit cards all over the place. Credit card companies get hacked the most, which is really crazy. People are breaking the Visa, breaking the Mastercard, or breaking to Abercrombie and Finch or whoever, and they're stealing
Mm-hmm.
information and data. So once you open up a long stream of credit cards, 8, 9, 10, 12 credit cards, you are opening
Mm-hmm.
yourself up more and more to being vulnerable.
Absolutely. Your information is just out there more,
Yeah.
and it's just more readily available. It's more likely if
Yeah.
your information is in multiple databases.
Yeah.
Um, so tell me about like I guess your journey with finances as you have gotten older, or as you like where did you come from and where you are now, if you don't mind going into that.
So, like I said, Visa Platinum freshman year. It went from Visa Platinum to Lane Bryant, and there was another store, maybe like Fashion Bug or something. I don't know,
Mm,
but these three credit cards. Listen, I mean, they had me in such a whirlwind of debt that I had no idea. I'm serious. I had no idea. Like, how am I supposed to pay all this money back? I got a
mm,
job. I was doing minimum payments, but my bill kept going up, and nobody I could no I didn't have an understanding of I'm paying, but my bill keeps coming up. And then I had
mm,
to, like, somebody sat me down. It was like, well, you do realize, compounding interest, like you pay interest. Interest comes this month, and it'll come the next month, and the next month,
mm.
and the next month. It's not a one-time interest hit. It's going to hit you
Yeah,
every month
exactly.
until you pay off this balance. I had no idea of that.
Mm,
Um, So I had to literally I paid off all my credit cards, and I didn't get another credit card until uh when did we go to Denver?
2016,
2016. I didn't get another credit
17,
card.
17.
I didn't get another credit card from I was a freshman in college in 1998. I think I got all of my credit card stuff paid off and in order by maybe 2003,
Mm.
2004 ish. And I didn't get
Hmm.
another credit card until 2016. Like
Oh
I
wow.
was nope. Yeah, I was like, I paid everything was with my debit card. I swiped my debit card, swiped my debit card. Like,
Mm.
I got, because, my debit card had Visa logo and I got a credit card. But it wasn't really a credit card, it's my debit card because it's my
Yeah.
money. So I was like, listen, I had to tell myself, if I can't swipe this, I can't have it.
Hmm.
And then
Absolutely.
I had to make sure that I knew that I had to prioritize my needs and
Hmm.
put to the side my wants. Which really kind of went hand in hand in my mind because I was making all this money
Hmm.
at such an early age. So again, I was blowing money fast. I wasn't saving anything.
Yeah.
My job had it after you work a full year. I've been on my job 20 years. After you work a
Hmm.
full year, you become eligible for a 401k, and they have a matching. You pay so much and they match that, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Listen, if I'd have known then, I could have been paying into, this 401. But instead, I'm running up and down the East Coast. you know?
Chasing Jay
Um,
Z.
right, Chasing Jay-Z. Listen, one of my faves. He is one of my faves.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, like I had no idea. And my credit was really horrible for a long time. And then it went to a
Hmm.
point where I needed to get another car. Alley Cat was my baby. I had Alley Cat for 13 years. I had a 2003 Oldsmobile Alero. Alley Cat, what we called her. And
I remember
I
her.
wore Alley Cat out. She had 329,000 miles on her
Jeez.
when I
Let's
listen.
go, Alley Cat. Like, look, let me
Alley
get real. A
Cat was
slow cat
my
for Alley Cat. Listen,
right. Alley Cat was
300,000 miles? Jesus.
329,000 miles. Alley Cat was my safety net. When I left North Carolina and I went to
Mm,
Virginia by myself, she was the only thing that I knew that I could rely on.
mm.
And when I left Virginia and went to South Carolina by myself, I didn't know anybody in the state of Virginia. I
Yeah,
didn't know anybody in the state of South Carolina. Alley Cat she was the one that I could rely on. Like if anything, I can rely on my car.
yeah,
And then I
absolutely.
came back to North Carolina and continued to ride her in the ground, like you know. And I always said, people are like, when you gonna get another car? When you gonna get another car? Listen, Alley Cat's gonna put me down. I will not leave her. She has to leave me. And
Mm.
one day I was headed to work, and the check engine light came on, and I was like, oh my god, my baby about to die. My baby about to die.
Alley Cat was like, I'm done, homie. Like,
She was listen. She was
quit
tired.
riding me.
She was tired. But when I tell you I got my $9,750 worth out of Alley. Listen, I talked them
Facts.
people down.
All
I
facts.
negotiated and I talked them people down. I think it
Mm.
was on the lot for like 14,000. They had it on sale for 12. And I told the guy when I went in, I'm only looking to put in like maybe 10. And they do what car dealers do. Oh yeah, we got you 9,999. You won. And I said, tell him I said 97.50. He said, but you said 10,000. Go out there and ask that man if he's gonna let me leave over $250. And he came back and was like, I ain't never seen it before. And when I tell you I got my money's worth
You got
out
your
of
money's
Alley
worth.
Cat, I got my money's worth. To the point that when I went to get my new car, I didn't have any credit. They was like, you don't show
Mm.
any credit history. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, what is that? Yeah, because I hadn't financed anything since 2003 when I got Alley
Yeah,
Cat.
yeah.
So yeah, I need to go back because I did have a lot of medical. There's a lot of medical debt was on
Bills.
my credit too. Having cancer is very expensive, and to be 22 and diagnosed with cancer, and then going through like different treatments and having to see a specialist every 4 to 6 weeks. It was,
Hmm.
really expensive, and that hit my credit too. I, had no idea how am I supposed to pay these medical bills outside. I had health insurance. I have health
Yeah.
insurance, but I still have my portion. My 20% is still due. And they're looking at
Hmm.
me. It's in my name. It's got my social security attached to it, so it's my credit.
Yeah.
So between the bad credit card mistakes that I made, and then my health issues, being again diagnosed with cancer and going through that, yeah, my credit was in shambles in my 20s.
Yeah.
It was ugly. Yeah.
So how did you like? What did you do to get it? Like, what turned you around, or what's something that? How did you turn it around?
Um, I think the biggest thing is when I left my comfort zone of my family and my safety net in North Carolina, I knew
Hmm.
that if I was out here in the world, I had to make sure that if I really needed something in a pinch, that I would be financially able to get it. So I
Hmm.
had to stop. I had to change my mind frame of, okay, now it's time to start saving. Now it's time to pay these bills down. It's time to make sure that if I had to like go out and get another car, I could. If I had
Hmm.
to make a decision that required me financing something, I could.
Hmm.
So I think when I left, I think I said it before, leaving was the best decision that I could have ever made, not only professionally but for the growth of Sharice. When I got out
Yeah.
there on my own and realized, like, okay, this is you and you got to make it.
Yeah.
That kind of changed my mindset. And I started saving more. I started putting the money aside. And I budgeted for. I had my miscellaneous fund. Like, okay,
Hmm.
listen, I still like to shop, and I was very adamant when I left North Carolina. I was like, I don't live check to check in North Carolina. I don't intend to move to Virginia, where the cost of living was 3, 4 times more, and have
Hmm.
to live check to check. So I negotiated my wages to match my lifestyle, so I didn't have to
Hmm.
change as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I
Absolutely.
just got smart about it. I, you know,
Yeah.
I made wiser decisions, and I put my needs before my wants instead of having them hand in hand. Because in my
Hmm.
20s, they were hand in hand. It was the same. My wants and my needs were the same thing. But then I had to separate my wants and my needs about 25, 26 ish. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I
What
think
about you? How'd your journey go?
so same thing. Like I think in college, I left college
Mhm.
with a degree. I didn't have that much credit card debt. I would say I had like maybe $3,500 in credit card debt
Okay.
and student loans.
Okay.
And uh, the student loans were, I think, the elephant in the room the entire time, and pretty much still are.
Yeah.
And I remember I moved to Hawaii, and I got a job, and I don't know I wasn't living outside of my means by any means there.
Hmm.
I was a lot of the money I was making was going to my student loans and to rent. Like I
Yeah.
remember I didn't do much. I would go to the beach every day. The beach was a mile away, and so
Hmm.
that was my activity. And
Hmm.
it's something that I love. So I was very fortunate living there because I didn't spend a lot of money out doing things. Like the
Yeah.
beach is free. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go surf. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go surf. And I remember I got these big um, bags of rice, and I had a Sam's Club card, and I would just buy like
In bulk.
frozen chicken and
Yeah.
broccoli and like I don't know. It was minimalistic, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed my life, and I spent a lot of time trying to basically scratch the surface of my debt. And I think a lot of it, like I was paying probably minimum payments on my credit cards, paying $800 a month on my student
Hmm.
loans, and then paying rent. And then I moved to Miami after that, and still I was making a little more money there, and so I was able to pay off a couple of my credit cards. But still, student loans were hampering me a lot. I moved to North
Yeah.
Carolina, and I think that's when I got a handle on my debt. I learned how to manage my money a lot better. I
Yeah.
learned how to allocate my money in ways that allowed me to do the things that I wanted to do. And
Hmm.
then I got fired. and then I was, and then the money I had saved. I remember I had a 401k. I had a miscellaneous fund. I had savings. Like I had all these things and like all these things in place that helped immensely because I got fired probably in October, and then I don't think I got like maybe a partial paycheck at the end of the year, but I probably
Mhm.
didn't get like a full paycheck again until January when I started my own business in 2011,
Mhm.
and I think that moment changed a lot because when you have your own business and you're 1099 and you're one, I was making a lot of money. Two, I
Mhm.
was saving money. Three, the IRS wants their money, you know,
Yeah.
and the IRS don't play about their money. And
Right.
so I was under the belief that like I was making all this money, so I was paying the IRS, I was paying my student loans, I was saving money, all these things, and I thought I was doing fine. And
Yeah.
I would say until from 2011, 2015, everything hit the fan. Like the
Yeah.
company that I was working for got shut down by the government, and I was just like, I didn't get my last three paychecks,
Yeah.
and my I was making very good money, and my last three paychecks could take me out of debt.
Yeah.
And to not get it and to still have the debt was hampering. And so I went
Yeah.
from like from October to January, like living off of savings.
Mhm.
And 2015, I made maybe 40% of what I made the year before, but I still
Yeah.
had the same bills. And I
Mhm.
think 2015 was really the turning point for my like finances. And then it took until about 2019 to get everything back in line and straight. And
Here come
then
COVID.
here come COVID. So it was interesting because before COVID, I was still a contractor. I had my own business, and then October of 2000 and what 19 is when again I stopped. Like work stopped,
Yeah.
and so from October to February I had very minimal work,
Mhm.
and it just again put me in a hole. And uh, I can't say that I didn't save or prepare for that moment, like because I did. Like I
Yeah.
had the money to like get me from
Mhm.
point A to point B, but it definitely was difficult. And again, I stretched some $20 a couple of times, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's COVID happened, and then I lost my job at the end of COVID, and like I think right now, it's probably the best. It's interesting because I make way less than I have made, but I also don't pay rent. So
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you to my dad for that. Um, but again, it's a mindset, and you prioritize. And I remember from 2011, 2014, I was balling out, and I was like, I'm making a lot of money right now, and I'm going
Yeah.
to ball out because
Yeah.
I thought I deserved it. Like I thought that I had found my calling. I thought I had
Mhm.
found a space for me to move in, and I was
Mhm.
going to take advantage for a couple of years while I was young, and then make some changes and be responsible later on. And
Yeah.
the thing about money management is like you prepare for the time where the money is not coming in.
Mhm.
And I didn't prepare well enough for those times. I prepared decent enough, but I didn't prepare well enough for those times. And
Right.
I had an opportunity to really pay probably pay down my student loans in a way that could have
Mhm.
been transformative, and I did not. I made more
Right.
than my monthly payment. I made extra payments, but I
Right.
didn't really dedicate my time because again, I thought that it was going to be something that was going to be feasible or be able to do later on.
Right.
And
Right.
life was like, no, no, we got different plans for all of this. And so
Right.
I think COVID and that taught me like a huge lesson is like one, tomorrow is not promised. Two,
Mhm.
tomorrow is not going to be what today is. So you have to
Mm.
prepare for it to be something different.
Yes.
And I think that's how I'm pursuing my savings now. Like now I'm attacking my debt. That's what I call
Right.
it. Like I call it, I have this credit card. All right, I owe this much, three payments, and then I'll pay
Yeah.
minimum on everything else, and I'm killing this one. And then the
Yeah.
next one, two payments because now I don't have this one to pay. You know, and I'm just
Right.
I'm attacking my debt in a way that
Hmm.
as soon as I'm free of a payment, then I'm adding whatever I would have paid on that to my next one. You know,
Yep. Yep.
and I'm just gonna continue it, and then I'm gonna attack everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just being really intentional, you know.
Hmm.
And I think that's really important to have the intent. Like you said, I'm working my way through the line, and once I
Hmm.
finish with this one, it's not necessarily that I have this one to save. I'm gonna get this debt out the way, and
Yeah,
then knock it out
exactly,
now. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I
Yeah.
made the misconception of saving. Not that saving is bad, but I was in debt and saving, you know? And like some of my
Yeah.
savings could have just paid off some of my debt, you
The
know?
debt. Right.
And I had this money sitting for something, like it was earmarked. And what
Hmm.
I think I should have done is like, let me just pay this off so I don't have this, you know? And then
Right.
you can always build up your savings, but like you said, it's
Yeah.
harder to rebuild your credit reputation, you know? So it's
Right.
important that you take care of that debt as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah. I
Hmm.
mean that's real. We've gone over a lot, to include getting
Hmm.
into debt. So there are some ways to help you get out of debt.
Yes. Hmm.
The biggest thing I think is to quote unquote face the music.
Yeah.
You have to be real with what your situation is. You can't just say, oh yeah, I got this debt. It'll take care of itself, and
Hmm.
it really doesn't. You have to look it square in the eye and say, "Hey, Dad, listen, it's time for us to break up."
Yeah. Exactly.
You can't deny or ignore the problem because this makes it a bigger problem.
Hmm.
So the first step is acceptance.
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
I think it's very important to be completely honest with yourself and
Mhm.
to recognize your debt and just let them know that they can't like they're no longer welcome, you know? And it has to
Yeah,
you have to remove your debt with force. It cannot be I definitely agree that you can't put yourself in a bad situation to pay off your debt, but you
yeah,
have to be super intentional about wanting to take care of it. It can't
yeah.
be, yeah, you just have to look it in the face and do whatever it takes to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Hmm.
that's the most responsible thing to do.
Hmm.
Is
Absolutely.
face the music, look it square in the eye, and say, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And then budget to create you a plan. What is my method of repayment? How am I
Hmm.
gonna budget and get through this? Like, what will I do in the next months to years to ensure that I don't have this debt hanging over me anymore? How am I going to rebuild my finances so that I am in a better position?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And in these steps too, like you don't have to have all these answers. There are so many tools. There
yeah,
are like financial advisors. There's
yes,
somebody that you know, I guarantee it. There's somebody that you know that
hmm,
is a good budgeter. Like
yes,
I know a couple. Like there are
yeah,
people I know who have spreadsheets, and spreadsheets don't really work for me, but they might work for you.
yeah,
And I think it's very important. And that's the other thing. I think it's very important that you find the thing that works for you,
for
like,
you.
and not just something that like is comfortable, but just something that like you will you will do.
Stick to. Hmm. Yeah, something
Because
that you can be consistent with.
and something
Yeah,
that you believe in, you know, I think that's
right.
very
Yeah.
important. It's finances are not one size fit all. There are some methods that work way better than others, and
Hmm.
there are some methods that don't work at all. So
Right.
obviously you need to just have some discernment in the method that you choose. But at the end of the day, there are different methods that work that you can choose. Like, you know what, this journey looks like it looks comfortable. It looks like
Mhm.
it's gonna, it gives me an end date. Like those things are important to identify when you're trying to plan out your journey.
Yeah. And then
Mm-hmm.
another big thing to plan out your journey is to find out what the damage is. Like
Mm-hmm.
get your credit report. Find out what is hitting your credit report right now. Pull all those loan statements together, figure out,
Mm-hmm.
what you have in your bank accounts. Like take a long hard look like, okay, what is my actual damage?
Yeah.
I'm about to map out this journey. what do I have to cover? What ground must I cover? So know where you are is super important.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely knowing, again, the credit report, seeing what it's looking like and what you have on the table once you get that credit report.
Absolutely.
And then from there, get into damage control mode. Now you know what the damage is. Here comes where you put that journey that you mapped out. That's what you put into play. It's time to initiate everything that you said you were going to do and get that plan of action in motion. It is time to execute. So make
Mm-hmm.
sure that once you face the music, you figure out, the path you want to take. You know what damage you is. Now it's time. What damage you have. What damage you is. You know
Mm-hmm.
what damage you have. Now is time to control it. Let's put the action in place, and let's get it going.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and you brought it up before, use two shovels, and that pretty much means double up payments wherever possible. If you
Mm-hmm.
can triple up payments wherever possible. If you can't double a payment, but you can put a little extra on it, put a little extra on it.
Yeah.
And you can do that without sacrificing your savings plan. So even though you
Mm-hmm.
have a plan to get out of debt, you can also have a savings plan as well.
Yeah.
They can coexist at the same time. So you can still plan for your future while working on your debt. So
Exactly.
use two shovels. Sometimes you have a shovel and a rake. Whatever you need to do to clean it up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Whatever you need to do to clean it up.
I think one of the tricks that I use is a lot of my bills I pay weekly.
Mm,
Like whenever I have, especially a debt that has interest that accrues daily, I think it's
mm-hmm,
way more effective to pay those kinds of accounts weekly
mm-hmm.
because when you pay monthly, that account has 30 days to accrue interest. When you're
Yeah.
paying weekly, you're taking a week out of the equation every time. So you're paying
Mm-hmm.
interest for a week every time. And you could be paying the same amount that you owe. So if your
Yeah.
payment is $800 a month and you're paying $200 every week, that payment is going to be way more effective than you waiting the 30 days and paying it every
Right.
month.
Yeah.
And another thing is when you want to add an additional payment, call your company, whether it be credit card, car, loan, whatever, and say, I
Mm-hmm.
want to apply this to principal.
Yes.
Because if you do not apply it to principal, what they're going to do is apply it to
Take
the
it out
interest
the
that has accrued since your last payment. And then
Yep.
you're going to see on your statement that your extra $100 payment went to the $56 of interest and
Yep.
$44 of principal.
Of the
So
principal.
call
Yep.
and make sure those are principal payments because that is going to help on the back end.
Yes.
And that's what you want. You want to attack your loan from, you want to make your payments, and then if
Mm-hmm.
you can, make principal payments. And basically, you're gonna have your loan journey, and it's gonna shrink from both sides because
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of hitting it from both sides.
Yep.
Um, those are things that I like to do. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're very effective, and they're also things that you see. Like I was looking at I pay my truck payment weekly,
Mm-hmm.
and my end date has moved forward because
Okay.
of how I've been making my
Having
payments.
payment.
One,
Yeah.
I'm ahead,
Mm-hmm.
so I like that. And then two, I try to call every couple of months and just put $100 on on a principal payment.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it enough to where it's moving the back end forward. So
Forward. Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, I mean that's dope and a good tip.
Mhm.
Um, we also have to get ourselves out of debt by saying, okay, this is my debt, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do what it takes, and sometimes that means that you have to um adjust your luxuries.
Mm.
Instead of buying two-ply toilet tissue, maybe you buy one-ply. you know,
Don't buy one
um,
ply at all. Like buy your two ply.
get
Take your luxury somewhere else.
Okay. Well, then instead of paying a monthly gym membership,
Mhm.
you was at the beach. You went a mile down and still got that
Yeah.
activity outside. So instead of paying a gym
Mhm.
membership, you can go to a park or walk a
Yeah.
nature trail or something.
Absolutely.
Get active outside. So you save that $20 to $60 a month
Hmm.
in gym fees by going freely outside. You need fresh air and vitamin D anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
um Or you can turn your vacation into a staycation.
Mm-hmm.
There's all different things that you can just again adjust your luxuries. That's what I did. Like I said, I was blowing money fast, and I realized like I don't need all this stuff. I'm only one person. How am I
Yeah.
gonna wear 20 pair of shoes at one time?
Mm-hmm.
So once I started to adjust my luxuries and start to actually value my needs and
Mm-hmm.
devalue my wants, then it kind of helped, with my finances. I'm also a person who will go out and say, I ain't got a $5. you know, like you trying to go get something to eat, you want to go here, want to go here. Okay, but I ain't got the $5. Like I got $5. And I got $5 got me a plenty of free meals. and
That'll work for me. That'll
I
work for me.
apologize now to you Ian, for running up your finances. I stopped blowing my money fast and started blowing your money fast. But look at
I have been a victim of I only got $5.
look, you let me do it. You let me do it. Like I've
You
gotten
right.
away
You right.
with. I've gotten away with. I ain't got but
You
five
got me. I
dollars.
got you.
You said what?
I said you got me. I got you.
Right, right. A mess. But I mean, but that is the good thing about our friendship. Like we go back and forth.
Mm, yeah. Absolutely.
So it wasn't always me taking advantage of of you paying, because we would definitely like we take turns, and at one point in time like I paid the last time, no I paid the last time, and like the
Yeah.
waitress looking at us like, okay, which one of y'all gonna pay, because I really don't care.
Right.
you know so yeah, like that was one good thing of our friendship. We definitely have a good give and take.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
not always
Absolutely.
one-sided.
Hmm.
So yes folks, I did tell Ian maybe 80% of the times I ain't have a $5, but but I paid my part. um what else? Oh yeah, so they say many hands make light work. Ian
Hmm.
mentioned it earlier. You can talk to a credit counselor. These people get paid to give you tips or a plan of action, and some people will give you free advice.
Hmm.
Especially in the age of COVID, people have been giving away free tips, free advice, free ways to get yourself out of financial burden and increase your financial literacy and freedom. So don't be too proud to speak to somebody about your finances. Credit counselors are there, and they can definitely help to put you on the right track. Um,
Absolutely. And also, a lot of employers are offering different services during COVID. Like I remember
mhm,
when I was in California, we had an employee assistance program, and
mhm.
there was credit counseling and mental health counseling and all different things. So ask your employer to see what they're offering, because you may be able to get a couple sessions for free. You
Yeah.
may be able to just have different resources at your fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, and
Mhm.
that's really good too to know, um, and you can always try to renegotiate your terms. Ian spoke of paying on the back end.
Mhm.
He's paid off his principal and has gotten ahead. That it gets to the point where his principal is paid off. He may be able to renegotiate the terms of the interest with his
Mhm.
creditors. People are always working, especially in this age where or this time where people have lost their jobs, their money isn't coming in. These credit card companies also want to be paid. They
Mhm.
don't want to be held with the bag. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't want to be held with your debt. So some of them are willing to, okay, if you pay this amount by this time, we'll write off the rest.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid to ask. Closed mouth don't get fed. So
Yeah.
if you know that you've done your due diligence, and they see that you are making an effort and that you have been consistent, there are some companies that will work with you to help
Mhm.
you get out of the debt that you may be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a good one for medical debt. Like I had a medical debt, and it was like $2,000. I didn't think that I should have had to pay it, but I did. But what I did was is I called them and was like, look, I got $1,100. You can have it
Mm-hmm.
today.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Right. You gonna take
Yeah.
all of this eleven
You gonna
hundred right
take it
now,
all right now,
or
or
we
I'm
gonna
gonna
we gonna
spread
run
this
this
over
thing
for the
out?
last. Yeah. And they took it, and that was
Yeah.
something that was, um, and another important thing about when that happens is to
Hmm.
like they also have to agree to make sure your credit report says paid in full. Don't let
Yes.
them put that like
Yes.
negotiated or anything else on your
Hmm.
credit card. If they accept
Right.
less than, have them make sure they put paid in full on your credit report because you don't want to take a
Yes.
hit for negotiating. And it
Right.
also works for terms on loans.
Hmm.
If you have a loan that maybe the payment is getting too high, or you lost your job and you need an extension, call and ask for an extension. Sometimes those
Hmm.
extensions will be awarded to you with lower interest rates and like
Hmm.
an extra year added on, so your payment
Hmm.
goes down, so it's more manageable, and you're able to pay it off sooner, maybe if you get a new job or whatever, or if you're unable to get employment, you're able to still afford your payments without missing payments and things of that nature. So definitely, if you're in a situation where or even if you have the money, call and see like what your creditors want to do. Like a lot of times they will work with you. A lot of times if you have something to offer, or even if you don't, if you're just in like a bad situation, like, look, I can't do this.
Hmm.
So I,
Yeah.
I want us to work together. I want to figure out a way. And if you're persistent enough, I will say in a lot of instances they will work with you.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Close mouths don't get fed.
Except predatory lending companies. Predatory lending companies don't give a damn what you say. I will.
Oh, you going through a bad time? I'm sorry. Your bill is due
Mhm.
in 15 days.
Like they don't have customer service representatives. They have debt collectors. That's it
Okay,
is
listen,
different.
and
So.
debt collectors do not care.
Mhm.
They
Also,
rude
please stay
AF.
away from predatory lending. Like, we haven't said that at all. Please try to stay away from predatory lending. If it sounds
Yes,
too good to be true, it
yeah,
is.
it probably is. Hmm.
It is. Ain't no such thing. Like, when it comes to folks giving you money, it's always
Hmm.
too good to be true. So please
Yeah,
try to stay away from predatory lenders. Title loans, payday loans, all
yes,
those things are set up for you to fail.
hmm,
Like, it is a
yes,
trap, and they're hoping that they can catch you.
yep.
So please definitely do your research. If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
All right, so let's just talk about some ways to save now. We've gone through financial literacy and debt and how to try to get yourself out of debt. But let's talk about ways of saving and or increasing income.
Mm-hmm.
What are
So I
some of your
think
methods of saving?
I think one of the things that I like to do is I like to have multiple accounts, like I said, earmarked with different purposes. Like I
Hmm.
like to the money that I am not going to spend, I want somewhere else. I don't want to like have access to it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I like to. My bank allows me to open a vacation account essentially, and
Okay.
so sometimes I like to open a vacation account. They'll set a term, like say 20 months, 14 months, 6 months, however long you want, and it's an
Hmm.
account that you can only deposit into. You cannot withdraw from until the terms of your account is over.
Oh.
And so, if there's something that I want to do, like when I went to Japan, I set
Hmm.
up this account a year before I went to Japan and put money into it.
Yeah.
And that's how I've done all the travel that I've wanted to do.
Okay.
Is that I set up this account, and it's really for Christmas. And I remember I did it one year for Christmas, and I asked, I was like, "Can you just do this anytime?" They're like, "Yeah, you can do it." And it's a CD account. It has a little bit higher interest rate,
Hmm.
and so you don't get many dividends. But it's just a way to like put money away, so and you can't transfer it back until the term is over, which I
Okay.
appreciate doing that.
I wish I'd have known that your bank was doing that. The many trips we took, taking poets to SoFri. People like listen, and that people like listen. Hey guys, you trying to get on this team? You need to pay in this much. No, hindsight is always 2020.
Always, always.
Yeah. Um, One of the things that I like to do is I started investing. I
Mm-hmm.
am new to stocks. I have been in stocks since May of
Mm-hmm.
2020. You know, kind of quarantine and COVID kind of like threw me into, oh well, let me see what stocks are about. You know,
Mm-hmm.
one of the guys at my job is really big into stocks. He got a Robinhood account, and with Robinhood, every time you invite somebody, you and that person gets a free share.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a staff of 14, and all 14 of us joined his Robinhood. You know, like, we used his link, and,
Mm-hmm.
with 14 free stocks, however many, um, and I was like, okay, well, at first I didn't think anything of it. I throw a couple of dollars here. I transferred $50 in, and I'll do this
Mm-hmm.
here, I do that there. And then like as he got passionate about it, and he starts talking about it and giving me all these different tips, I'm like, oh well, let me start paying attention and
Mm-hmm.
figuring out. And I turned my first initial $50 investment into now almost $2,000.
Oh wow.
Just in stocks. Between May and now.
Mm-hmm.
I have purchased some big name stocks. Apple and Tesla did a four-way split back in, I think it was either like September, October ish. Um, and when they did that split, the shares became more accessible to me. It was in like my reach. Okay, I could afford this.
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
and I have watched the stocks go up and go down, go up and go down. You know, I've made money, I've lost money, but it all started with an initial $50. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, and that's why I was really important trying to talk to my nephew about getting him involved in stocks and
Mm-hmm.
trying to get him on that right path to financial freedom
Mm-hmm.
and being able to break the curse of generational debt and start a new trend for generational wealth, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Generational wealth isn't the same thing to everybody.
Absolutely. I think stocks are a great way. I wish I remembered the stat. I can't remember the stat and I did not write it down, but I was actually watching, I think it was Good Morning America or CBS Morning America, and they were talking about stocks. It was this morning, and it had something like, I don't know, some really low number, like really low percentage, like 23% or 19% of black people are even like in stocks. It
Yeah,
is like extremely
yeah,
disproportionate. And it was talking about how much we have in savings. And for like white families, the average is like $700. And then for black families, it's like $390. And it is something that is, I don't, it glares like the reason that we're not in stocks is because we don't have the disposable income, and stocks are still
hmm,
risky. You know, they're
yeah,
not guaranteed, and like
yeah,
super proud of you for earning some money.
yeah,
And yeah, like, and for those of you who are not necessarily if you're risk averse and you'd rather something more stable, you can look into something like an IRA. There
yes,
are two types of IRAs. There's a Roth IRA, and there is a traditional IRA. And so, a Roth IRA, you're gonna contribute your after-tax dollars into this Roth IRA. And I think you can put up to 6,500 in a year,
okay,
and when you take it out, you can usually make tax and penalty free withdrawals after the age of 59 and a half.
hmm,
And a traditional IRA is very similar. You contribute your pre tax dollars, and then that money grows, and then what you withdraw after the age of 59 and a half is taxed.
yeah,
So a lot of times people always suggest Roth IRAs. There's a little more flexibility in them, with how you can invest them, and
hmm,
so I think there's a little less flexibility and more restrictions in regards to traditional IRAs. You usually have to set it up with your employer, and that money has to get like sent straight from your check into your IRA. But Roth IRA is definitely a good tool for longevity, and it's also something the earlier you set it up, the better you set yourself up in the future. I
hmm,
remember they did a an analyst of somebody who was going to put in $200 a month from the time they were 18, and somebody else who started when they were 30, and the amount of money that that person had earned in those 12 years was exponentially higher than the person who started just 12 years later or even 5 years
Yeah.
later. So definitely invest in a Roth IRA if you want something a little safer and a nest egg for later in life.
Hmm. That's definitely good. Again, I made the comment about the 401. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
started with the company that I'm with back in 2000. So in 2001, I could have been paying into a 401 that is matched by my company. So whatever I put in, they match to a certain, to a certain percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so 401s are good in that regard through the company, especially if they are willing to match
Absolutely.
what you put in. And definitely the whole Roth IRAs versus the traditional IRA. I have contemplated leaving my job a plenty of times within the 20 years. And I kept saying, well, if I leave, they're like, what about your 401? You'll take penalties. Not if I roll it over into, an
Mm-hmm.
IRA.
An IRA.
So
Mm-hmm.
just knowing the difference in between, like, okay, I have this money that I'm getting funneled, through my check. But now, if I leave this company where the 401 is, I could take that 401 with me and have it sit somewhere, or I can roll it over into an IRA that
Mm-hmm.
can continue to,
To
make
grow.
me money
Mm-hmm.
as I keep going through my journey. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are definitely good ways of saving money or earning money outside of a traditional savings account.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of different types of savings accounts. You know, there are
Mhm.
higher interest savings account. There are money market savings accounts. Um, there. Do your research. Look at your bank, and some of them may have dollar amount minimums or restrictions on how often you can withdraw from that account. But
Yeah.
there are ways that you can put your money somewhere, it be safe, and it grows. So
Yeah.
definitely do your research, look into different things. There are multiple apps like Robinhood. Um, I think Robinhood has come to. I remember using it a long time ago, and it's come back a lot because of the whole GameStop situation.
Yes.
And please believe these are anomalies. So, like, understand that stocks are volatile, and you have to do your research. There are things that you have to do your research. So please make sure you do research and be responsible. Um, and I think there's the other new thing to invest your money is cryptocurrency,
Yes.
Bitcoin. Uh,
Bitcoin
I
is really big.
remember I remember when Bitcoin was like $4,000 per Bitcoin,
Mhm.
and I'm so like I remember my brother telling me about it. I'm like, this I it's just a fad. It's gonna go away. What is this? You know? And
Yeah.
he's like, no, you gotta invest. You gotta invest. And I didn't. And I look back now. I'm like, I wish I would have just put $5 in. You know?
Right. Right. You could be a millionaire.
Just five
Yeah.
dollars and just let it ride. You know? But
Right.
um, it definitely again there are places where people are more risk averse, and that's totally understandable. Bitcoin seems to not be going anywhere, so it's another good place to put a couple of dollars.
Mhm.
Blockchain currency is I think going to be part of our future, and it's going to be
Yeah.
a part of a way to either keep your money safe or make some additional money on the side.
Yeah.
I think there. Did you hear the news? I don't know. There was a guy who has I don't know all these. I think $250 million in Bitcoin,
Oh wow.
but he cannot remember his password to access his account.
Oh
Hmm.
no.
And he
And they
has
can't
one
help
more
him with that?
try, huh?
They can't help him with that?
No, the way that it's set up is they don't have like a forgot your password kind of situation.
Mm.
And so if you lock yourself out, you just lock yourself out. And he has one more try to get it right.
Oh my gosh. That is
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah, he was on the news.
That
I
is
think it was like last week. He was on the news,
that is
and
crazy.
I couldn't imagine.
That is crazy. There
Hmm.
has to be some kind of like there has to be something.
Yeah.
Like there has to be something, some way, somebody somehow. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's I would call everybody. I would call everybody. Who is the creator of Bitcoin? Let me talk to him. Somebody go tell me something.
Just make an exception for me, please.
Right. Oh
Like we
my
can
god.
break bread, I'll give you half. Like
Right. Oh my gosh. That is so crazy. Wow.
no.
That's crazy.
But yeah,
Yeah.
um I think the purpose of this conversation today is just to ensure that one, like we're having these conversations as a community,
Mhm.
with adults, with teenagers, even with children. I saw today there's a game on Instagram. It was a card game, and it was like flashcards for finances basically,
Oh.
and it was a father like basically reading the definition and the little kid telling them what it meant what it meant,
Oh
and
wow.
like that is amazing because the kid was probably like 5 or 6 and he's learning
Mhm.
something that I didn't even know what debt was until
Yeah.
I was probably,
In
I
debt.
don't know, in high school, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe not in
Yeah.
debt, but definitely in high school, like in economics class or something like that,
Mhm.
like learning how to balance. But it wasn't something that I learned the definition of before that because there was no need for me to do so.
Right.
So I think we're having this conversation to ensure that these conversations are being had and they're important to really set your
Mhm.
family members up, not just like your kids, but everybody in your family to like set them up for the future. It's important.
Mhm.
And there are many ways to get out of debt and even more ways to save money. So please research, learn a method, uh, tinker with the method until it works for you, and
Yeah.
just continue to work hard and attack debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the game that had a father and son. I had a father and son coming to my job,
Hmm.
and the father was talking to the son who may have been like 7 or 8. And
Hmm.
they were having a real adult conversation about finances and the PPP loans,
Hmm.
with like government and like trying to help these business stay afloat. And the guy was saying in order to get the loan, he needed to hire so many people, like X amount of people, and was talking about
Hmm.
the different demographics that he would hire them from. Somebody in the military, African American, Hispanic, whatever. And he's having this
Hmm.
conversation with his son, and he was saying that he basically needed to hire these people in order to get the money, and as long as he can show that they were on the payroll, that he would get the money, and then he could let the people go.
Oh wow.
And he was saying, like, yeah, he was saying like, I don't care about, if they have families or bills. Like, this is what we have to do to get this money. And the
Wow.
and the son was like, so you got to hire him? He's like, yeah. He's like, and then you got to fire him? And he was like, yeah, you have to. This is how you get. He was basically teaching him the system at 7 or 8, teaching
Yeah.
him the system of how to, you know, um, take advantage and
Yeah.
get the money. And he was at 7 or 8. This little boy is having grown up conversations and was very active and engaging and
Hmm.
understanding what his father was talking about in regards to being set up financially and how to get these hundreds of thousands of dollars that
Yeah.
would help grow their business and
Hmm.
set his son up for for financial freedom.
Yeah. And it's
You know.
disappointing that it was taking place in that. Like, I'm always glad that conversation is had, but it's disappointing in the way that that particular conversation was had.
Yeah, yeah,
um, but definitely, I think it's important to engage children with finances, and even if you
yeah,
create a fake business or even a real business, and you work together as a family to
mhm,
finance something or to build something,
right,
so that the kids have the tools. I think it's very important.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Or even the example of giving them $20,
Hmm.
and then having them break down this $20, like make it turn it into something. You have to spend this much on food, this
Hmm.
much on whatever, and you have to save this percentage of. You have to save 10% of this
Hmm.
$20, and then you
Hmm.
have to make sure that you can eat, that you have something to put on, and the rest of it is for you. What
Yeah.
are you gonna do to to cover that? Like maybe we need to start doing those things um in our communities. And you don't always have the extra $20, so you can always use Monopoly money or Play money to, like, to set up the scenarios.
Yeah,
We
or
have to
even
get
like
better.
change.
Yeah, we have to get
Mhm,
better about putting actual currency in our kids' hands and see how they can work through a scenario.
mhm,
That is a good way to help, get them
mhm.
prepared.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I
Yeah,
think like strategies are important. Like I said, we have to teach finances. It's not just
yeah,
about handing out like the money. And I think
yeah.
uh, it's something that I've learned the hard way. It is something that I've seen perpetuated in my family, and it's something that like I definitely want better uh, for future generations in my family. I was having a conversation with my dad today, and I was telling him that we were talking about generational wealth, and I
Hmm.
was telling him that I will be the first generation in our family that I will not have to pay to bury my parents. And
Wow.
I was like, think about that. I was like, you had to
Yeah.
pay to bury your mother and your grandmother. Like
Right.
all the men in the family or all the brothers had to come together and pay. And I was like, our generation will be the first generation. Like the kids of
Right.
my dad's brothers will be the first generations that we will not have to pay, and we will all probably receive an amount of money that is like goes far beyond the burial,
Right. Right.
and I was telling him the differences in um, other communities. That's not the case, like in white communities, it's not the case. Like my grandmother couldn't get life insurance
Life
in
insurance.
Alabama in the '60s,
Yeah.
like it just wasn't accessible to her, and so
Right.
and then her mother definitely couldn't get it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so yeah, it's interesting to think about generational wealth in that way, and also to think of um, the kind of perpetual debt that we have always put ourselves in when death comes,
Hmm.
and so you think
Yeah.
about even the killing of people of like black men and women in society, like when the
Hmm.
finances aren't straight, then
Yeah.
that's a financial hit that takes a while to come out of. That's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's definitely important that we learn about finances, we
Hmm.
develop strategies, and we implement those strategies to our family.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely um something that, this conversation I feel was needed.
Hmm.
And hopefully it kind of awakens some things in, some of the viewers, to have the conversations that are needed. Some of them may already, have had these conversations, have been having these conversations, and are aware of everything that we discussed. But then there may be others that, can take from this. Again, we are
Hmm.
not financial advisors.
Yeah.
We just,
No. Mhm.
had the candid conversation, of our experiences with each other, as we always do. And
Mhm.
we just hope that, people can pull from it, take the gems that resonate with you and leave the others for, someone else to come pick up.
Yep, absolutely. And on
Yeah.
that note, I think we'll end this episode of Discourse and Chill. We really appreciate you staying with us.
Yes.
Please like, subscribe, Reese.
And comment.
Yeah. Hit that notification bell, and we will
Yeah.
see you next time.
All right, bye, chillers.
For sure.